Is a bigger down payment better? A question I get asked all the time from home buyers is, what do I need to put down? And everyone always assumes that putting a larger down payment, commonly 20%, to avoid mortgage insurance, if you're in Canada, CMHC, is better, but it's not always better. In fact, will be able to show you using some of the numbers and the math that how you manage your money can really determine which option's best, whether or not you want to go down with a minimum payment or go in with a 20% or more down payment. It really depends, but there are times where a lower down payment or going in with the minimum can get you further ahead financially over a 5-year period or longer. Let's dive into those numbers, but before we do, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button below. Okay, so here we're going to be looking at comparing the minimum down payment and having to pay mortgage insurance versus putting a 20% down payment and not having to pay mortgage insurance. Just so that you know, we're doing this on a $700,000 home purchase price. I've held all the interest rates the same, whether we're calculating a return, whether we're calculating the mortgage rate, things like that. So in both of these scenarios, I'm using a 5-year fixed 2.19% mortgage rate. And one of the big assumptions that we're making here is that you've saved a 20% down payment. In both scenarios, you've saved a 20% down payment. And whether you're putting the down payment, all of it down, or whether you're not putting it down, whatever the difference is, you're going to be saving it and investing it. Okay, so that's a big caveat here. We're looking at saving it and investing it. So let's start with the 20% down payment here. So with 20% down payment, that means you've saved $140,000 in your bank account. You're going to take all that money, put it down on the house. Now, good news is you don't pay any CMHC, so that's $0. Now, your net remaining is how much cash you have left over after paying your down payment. So we said you've saved the 20% down. That's all the cash you have. Putting that down, your net remaining is $0. So your mortgage payment then is going to be $2,423, again at a 2.19% 5-year fixed. Now let's compare this to a minimum down payment scenario. So the minimum down payment on a $700,000 purchase is $45,000. You are going to have to pay CMHC. So that's going to be $26,000, and that gets worked into your mortgage. So your net remaining, so you had that $140,000, you put $45,000 down, you now have $95,000 left that you're going to invest. Your mortgage payment here is obviously going to be higher. You put less down, so it's $2,947, $2,947. So there is a monthly difference, obviously, between those two. In this one, you're spending an additional $524 a month on your mortgage payment, whereas over here, you're saving $524 a month. So what we're assuming here is this one over here, I'm saving this $95,000 in an investment, and this one over here, I don't have anything to save, but I am going to be taking that $524 balance, that extra amount of money that I get per month, and then saving that in an investment. So in both scenarios, I have the same amount of money that I have up front, and whatever the difference is between the two in my mortgage payment or whatever I've saved, all of it's being invested. And we're going to see where we come out in terms of getting ahead financially. And we'll also explore which option might be better for you, because there's different scenarios that we all experience. So just so you can see this, because it's important to include when we're looking at the absolute picture, how much interest are you paying between the two, and then how much principal have you recaptured? Recaptured principal means every time I pay a mortgage payment, a portion is interest and then a portion is principal. So I'm basically, every time I'm making that mortgage payment, I'm paying down principal, I'm taking money from one bank account and just moving it to another. I'm recapturing that principal and earning that every time. So in the first scenario here, obviously we're going to pay a little bit less interest, but we also accrue or capture less principal. So we pay about $56,000 in interest, and just under we just recapture just under $90,000 in principal. Now with the minimum down option, we pay a little bit more interest, $68,000 and change, but we recapture almost $110,000 in principal. Now, don't be fooled with that number, even though it's bigger. We still have $140,000 in principal that we initially went with here versus the $45,000 in principal that we went with over here. So this number will catch up to the other one over time. But it definitely still looks a lot better than people realize, especially with interest rates being so low. So now let's get into the important stuff here. We're going to hold the value of the home the same between the two. So if the property increases by 5% per year over 5 years, and the reason we picked 5% is because recently it's been crazy with growth. Prior to that, it was averaging about a 5% increase per year, and then prior to that, it was averaging closer to a 3. So 5 seems like a reasonable amount if we're kind of returning to the mean, returning to normal. 5% seems like a reasonable amount to assume from there. Obviously, anything can change. I don't have a crystal ball, but this is just, back of the napkin math. Well, not really. It's a spreadsheet, but this is just quick math looking at, what we see in regards to trends. So now the home is worth $89,000 and change. In both scenarios, we've increased the equity by $193,000. So we do know that just by getting into the market, regardless of either option, you were able to make almost $200,000 over 5 years in equity growth in this scenario. Okay, so now we're going to look at the saving the difference. So both of them are ahead. Both of them have made 200 grand almost in this scenario. Now, what difference does it make putting the down payment down, and which one's better? So on a 5-year period, saving that $524 per month difference, earning 7%. And the reason we picked 7% is because that's a pretty reliable return on a balanced fund. And most people are probably going to be in some sort of balanced fund. It's more likely that you're going to be either balanced or high growth given a time horizon if you're a first-time home buyer. Obviously, if you're not a first-time home buyer, you're going to be more conservative. However, if you're not a first-time home buyer and you've been in the market for a long time, this video may not be as applicable in terms of how much you're going to put down. You like to have more equity saved by that point. So 7% seems reasonable. It could definitely be way more if you're a savvy investor, but we're going to use that and hold it steady between the two. So over here, just saving that 500 plus per month, you've been able to save and make, using compound interest, $37,514. Now, if we take that $95,000 up here and put it away at the start of that 5-year period and don't touch it, we don't add anything else to it either. So we're not having any more payments go into it. That has turned into $133,000 and change. Almost a drastic difference, almost $100,000 difference between the two over a 5-year period. So let's look at what does that look like. So we're going to look at, because I want to actually show you what that is in terms of return, and then we'll look at the total picture, including all equity, right? So if we look at your total assets, not including the return on capture, so the principal recapture and the down payment, with everything that you've accumulated just in equity increase plus your investments, this one you're sitting at roughly $230,000 or $231,000, whereas this one over here, same $193,000 increase, but $133,000 in your investments is $326,000 and change with your total assets. So this scenario up here, we put $140,000 down, cash out of pocket, right? Took it out of my pocket, out of my bank account, now it's gone. So my cash on cash return, meaning I put this cash out, and now how much have I accumulated back, is sitting around 165% over that 5-year period, which, annualized, simply divided by 5, works out to roughly 33% per year. Still amazing. Okay, it's still absolutely amazing. If we look at this one over here, at $326,000, but I was only out of pocket $45,000. So I only actually had to take $45,000 out of my bank account to be able to earn $326,000. And so here, my cash on cash return is dramatically higher at almost 726%. Again, much smaller number here, much bigger number here, much bigger, percentage return. So this here, divided by 5, my annualized return would be 145% roughly, right? So again, this is just kind of quick math, just so you can see the difference. Obviously, there could be rounding errors and things like that, but a rounding error doesn't change how drastic of a difference this stuff is. Okay, so obviously this would lead you to believe that this option over here, putting the minimum down could be much better. You definitely end up with more money later on. Now, one thing that we haven't factored in yet is you haven't lost the down payment from the previous one. So we haven't included, this money that you haven't lost. So if we want to really look at a net asset, so how much you have in total, how much money you have over here in equity and versus over here, we're just going to look at, we're going to roll in the down payment plus the principal recaptured over that period of time. So in option number one, you now have $460,000 in total assets. So you put $140,000 down, you save the difference, made your mortgage payments, invested the difference at 7%, and your total now down payment, home equity growth, investments, everything put together is about $460,000. Now let's move that over here to this other side. Obviously over here, we put a much smaller down payment down. So we're gonna add the down payment, we're gonna add the principal recapture, we're gonna add to our $326, and now we're at $480,000. So when we roll in the amount that we haven't lost, because we never lost our down payment, it's only a $20,000 spread. But $20,000 over 5 years is not insignificant. And what I want to point out is the rate of growth over here is pretty crazy. And what you could start doing over on this side, over on this minimum down one, is what you could start doing after 5 years is you could refinance your mortgage so that you could keep your payments the same, or you could refinance your mortgage so that you reduce your payments. And as you reduce your payments, you could start using the method over here of now being able to add to this 5-year investment. You can now start adding a monthly payment to this bank account to exponentially increase its growth. So technically, the minimum down payment, saving the difference, refinancing after 5 years, and then reinvesting the difference after you refinance over a 10, 15, 20-year period of doing that, and using that model gets you way further ahead financially than just focusing on putting the maximum down at the start and just front loading everything. If you can see that by not front loading your mortgage and doing all that, but saving the difference and investing and refinancing and then putting it all back in there over the long haul definitely gets you way further ahead financially than the alternative. Now, that being said, obviously over here, you need to have the ability to not touch this $95,000 for this method to work, and you need to be able to get a decent return on that money. Whereas over here, you need to have the discipline to save that $524 a month and not spend it. And same thing, you need to be able to pull in a 7% return over here. So 2 caveats. One, over here, you need to be able to manage your cash flow better and save the difference. Over here, you need to be able to not touch the money. So which one's better? I mean, $20,000 over 2 years sounds great, but if the model doesn't work for you because you can't do it, it doesn't fit your personality type, and you struggle having money sit in a bank account, or you struggle saving the difference, you need to pick the one that fits your lifestyle better, because ultimately the one that you can do is the one that's going to serve you the best. That's it for today. Thank you so much for joining. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button below and tune in for the next one.